This particular video is going to have a look at sports confidence and self-efficacy. So if we look at your specification, there's quite a lot of key bullet points we've got to know here. We've got to be able to define sports confidence and self-efficacy. We've got to know the impact of sport. We've got to know Veely's model of sports confidence and Bandura's theory of self-efficacy as well. So make sure you've got a little list of these key terms, because these are all the types of short questions that could come up in your paper. Now, first thing we're going to look at is sports confidence. Now, sports confidence is a more general term, okay? It's our belief or our general disposition we have about our ability to be successful in sport. So it's a level of self-belief we have in a variety of different sports situations. It's our understanding of our capability to be good at sport in general. So if we've got high sports confidence, you ought to have little doubt you're going to achieve in sport, and you've got a firm belief in your own ability. Self-efficacy, on the other hand, is far more specific to a particular situation. So some of us are more confident than others, for example, at standing up and talking in front of a crowd or trying out a new sport. So a good sports example for self-efficacy might be a tennis player's belief in how many first serves they're going to make successfully, because that's specific to a specific situation within that sporting context. Now, the next thing on your spec is about the impact of sports confidence on performance. Now, if an individual has a high sports confidence, this makes you far more likely to achieve positive outcomes in sport. Okay, you're going to be more skillful, more successful, more competitive. You're more likely to take risks as well. Okay, whereas if you've got low sports confidence, that's going to have a negative effect on your performance and will likely cause underachievement. For example, missing the goal when you're taking a penalty. So a good sports example, because remember we always want those AO2 points in here, is the example would be a 100-metre sprinter with high sports confidence is more likely to achieve better times than someone with low sports confidence. Now if we look at the effect on participation, again it should be quite obvious. High sports confidence will make you more likely to take part and compete. Okay, you're more likely to try new activities, to volunteer for different roles. Whereas if you've got a low sports confidence, it's going to make you less likely to participate. Okay, you're not going to try hard, you're not going to try new activities, you're not going to volunteer, and you'll probably never realise your actual talent you have in sport. So for example, a high school student with high sports confidence may attend gym sessions and seek out team practices and competitions because they're looking to participate more because they've got high sports confidence. Now, the next thing we need to look at is self-esteem. So self-esteem is your feeling of self-worth. So if you've got high sports confidence, you're going to have higher self-esteem. And if you've got low sports confidence, you're going to generally have lower self-esteem. So positive self-esteem is vital if you think about mental well-being in the long term, your ability to cope in life, and especially within sporting situations. So for example, a high school student who's got low sports confidence may experience low self-esteem and shy away or feel they aren't good enough to try out for the netball team. Now it's really important you get this model down, because in an exam they might not necessarily give you a picture of the model, so it's important you get this down. So press pause for a minute, draw this model out, and then we'll go through each stage of it. So in the middle up here, we've got the sports situation. This could be any sport, golf, football, netball, whatever. And then we've got trait sports confidence over here. So some models might call it SC, sports confidence trait. And this is your sort of innate level of self-belief. Okay, it's a little bit like personality traits. It is stable, but it's your innate, you're born with this sort of level of belief in sport. And then we've got over the other side, on the right-hand side here, competitive orientation. This is how competitive the person is, or how willing they are to take on goals of the performance. Now, these three things all feed into state sport confidence here. Some may call it SC state, sports confidence state. Now this is your self-belief in a specific sports situation, and it can be influenced by your trait confidence and your competitive orientation. And it can be developed through learning. So the more you learn a skill, the more confident you're going to become in that scenario. So it tends to be unstable and it can change. And state confidence relates to an individual's belief or perception about the extent to which their ability is going to bring them success at a particular moment. Okay, so it might be taking penalties in football, for example. Now, this then will feed into the behavioural response. Okay, the behavioural response is the level of sports or state sports confidence the behaviour shows in the performance. Okay, so these three at the top here all feed into your state sports confidence, and this then feeds into your behavioured response. The level of state sports confidence will dictate the behaviour shown in your performance. So this confidence dictates your behaviour. And eventually we come down to the bottom of this model here. We've got the subjective outcome. Now after the performance, so we've just done our performance here. After the performance, the individual will either feel satisfied or disappointed, which will either increase or decrease their trait confidence or competitive orientation. So you can see the model just feeds back around all the way to the top again up here. So if we win, that's going to increase our sports confidence. If we lose, we might reduce our trait sports confidence a little bit. Again here with competitive orientation, it will get maybe affected by the results of that match and how we attribute the success or failure. So that's sports confidence model. Now we're going to move on to Bandura's self-efficacy model. Now this model suggests that self-efficacy depends on 4 different types of information and can vary from situation to situation. So some of you who do psychology, A-level, will have heard a lot of these terms before, but it's really important that you get this model down, okay? Because again, they might not give it to you in an exam. So we're going to look at each 4 of these, and we're going to try and see how it affects efficacy, and then what impact that will have on behaviour. So draw this model down, press pause, draw the model, and then we'll go through it. Now when we're looking at Bandura's model, the first part there are performance accomplishments. Now a performer can be reminded of any previous success of the skill. So they've been successful in the past, the coach reminds it of them, and that can increase their confidence. And if successful performances are attributed especially to sort of internal or controllable attributions, as we know, that's also going to increase their confidence further, because again, they're thinking it's down to things like their ability or their effort. Now these probably have the strongest influence on self-confidence. So if success in sport has been experienced in the past, then feelings of self-confidence are likely to be high. So a shooter in netball gets reminded of her successful statistics for the past season so far. And again, that's going to affect her when she goes to shoot in her next match. Something else that might affect your self-efficacy is vicarious experiences. So this is watching another player perform the same skill, and that can increase your confidence, especially if there's someone who's of a similar standard to you. So for example, a gymnast watching a fellow club member master a backflip on the beam. And then that might give that particular athlete, because they've seen someone else with similar ability do it, the self-efficacy to go and do that move as well. Next, Bandura said verbal persuasion has a positive effect on self-efficacy. So if you're giving positive extrinsic feedback or reinforcement, then that can increase someone's confidence or improve their performance. So a swimmer, for example, being told that their leg action is improved, that's going to improve their self-efficacy. And also we've got emotional arousal. And this is about understanding the signs associated with arousal and knowing that an increase in arousal will not necessarily lead to a failure. So once you get that increase in heart rate, those sweaty palms, it's not going to lead to failure, and that you can control it. And once you understand that, that can increase your confidence. So a sprinter knowing that increased heart rate is a natural pre-performance. Okay, it's a natural thing that occurs. Or a golfer having strategy to control their levels of anxiety. If you've got more strategy to control it, then it's going to increase your self-efficacy. Now, if we look at Bandura's model here, we've looked at these 4 very briefly. And these 4 all affect your efficacy expectations. Now, these are the expectations of a performer to achieve success or achieve their goal. So, for example, the gymnast now feels that they can achieve a successful fall. Okay, once they've had performance accomplishments, they've done one on the floor before, just not on a beam. They've seen someone else similar ability do it. The coach has given them positive feedback. They've got strategies to control their arousal. So now they feel they can do a successful vault because of these 4 particular components. Finally, we have the athletic performance. And this is now improved because their self-efficacy is higher. So, for example, the swimmer in our previous example can now perform a successful tumble turn because they've had these 4, they've had their efficacy expectations, then it improves their level of performance. Now let's have a quick look here. The last thing we're going to look at is about having a look at strategies to improve someone's self-efficacy. So if we've got a beginner high jumper, for example, we want to try and give him initial success by maybe lowering the bar, okay, or using some of that flexi rope some of you may have used in PE lessons. Again, that would be an example of providing performance accomplishments. We're trying to give them success. Then we're going to demonstrate how it can be done. Or if you're much better than that person, you might use someone of similar ability. So we're modelling or using vicarious experiences. Then we'd verbally encourage that athlete. We'd tell them that they should have a go. And that's our verbal persuasion. Then we'd tell them that being worried is natural and very positive response because it prepares our body. Having an increased heart rate is a physiological response that's getting our body ready for exercise. So we're getting to understand that emotional arousal aspect of Bandura's model. So make sure you've got these notes down and then we'll go through it next lesson.